Hey everybody, and welcome back to Rathlin Island. We have made it into late autumn, and we're just on our way back from dropping a load of produce over at the mainland. Also picked up some finished goods from our dairy and delivered those to the milk processor, or I guess the milk wholesaler, as well as the grocery store. And we've got some soybeans to bring in today. So thankfully, we have already prepped most of everything with respect to the soybeans. Just need to bring this down to the harvester. Get us rolling. So I was looking at the grass fields today, and it doesn't look like we're going to be able to get anything off the grass fields the next couple days. We are pretty much done our grass work for the game year at this point. In fact, if we look at the let's go ahead and look here. Pick grass, and here it is. All the grass fields are still showing that they are harvested, so there is nothing to pick up. And if we were to try, we would just be cutting air, if you will. The bales we have are the bales we will have till late spring, the earliest. I think we're good to go. The BGA has one full haystack still, and about 9 or so bales left in the secondary stack. So that should get us through winter. And got in our hay barns here, we've got 2 that are fairly full, if not completely full of hay, and 1 that's got some hay in it. Got 2 barns, straw in it, and then we've got 1 barn that is got a fair bit of silage bales in it. So I think we are ready to go, good to go with respect to everything there for the winter. Of course, we do have 875 sheep to contend with. It's a wee bit more than we had last year during winter, so we'll have to see what they consume as far as hay goes. We've got 29 cows now. We didn't have that many last winter, but we still had, I think we had 25 or so last winter, so still pretty reasonable there. Got, like I said, we've got our harvester over here all ready to go. Got a trailer parked here. Just need to squeak on around here. Let's see, here's one in here. Park this here, and we'll use the Toyota to move around the header trailer once we get our opening here. Got to open up the field a little bit so we can get the tractor out to get hooked up to the trailer. Even though we have the pipe on this side of the harvester, I'm trying to go ahead and open up this side of the field a little bit. That way we can go ahead and get our tractor out and get it hooked up to the trailer. I expect we're going to be able to make a couple rounds on this field before we have to unload, given the yield rate of our soybeans. But I figured, you know what, we might as well be careful, be cautious, and just open up this side a little bit. Hate to lose any of our precious soybeans if we don't have to. Guys, happy August. I think this video is going to come out around August 1st. We are officially nearing the end of summer. In fact, today, my oldest daughter, she went off to first day of band camp, high school band camp, and they actually go back to school like the second week of August. So that is our school area, is our school district is the earliest school district in the area to head back to school. But that also means that they are out very, very early compared to everybody else. They're actually out of school sometime like the end of May. I think they actually get out maybe before Memorial Day. Whereas everyone else is going still a good 2-3 weeks into June at that point. But what it does do is it really lets them have a decent amount of flex schedule with respect to snow days. Seems like nowadays, snow in the air blowing around, schools wanting to cancel classes, cancel school. It's hard not to blame them in such a society that is so quick to want to litigate and assign blame to people. Of course, you're going to be pretty careful with respect to, let's see if we can back this thing up. You're going to be pretty careful with respect to somebody else's kids and bad weather. But as a result, sometimes it seems like they could really end up having to go to school a fairly long time after into winter or into summer as a result of missing so many snow days. Yeah. Sweet. But having such an early start, they can really pack in those snow days and have plenty of time in the event that they actually do need to take days. They won't have to worry about too much about schedule. All right, back to town here. So what have we heard new about Farm Sim 19 at this point? Well, I don't think we've heard too much more than we talked about in the last videos. You know, the biggest thing is going to be the well, the map style. I think I've been thinking about the maps that we look at now under the information that of how the new maps are supposed to be for 19, where you have buyable areas. So you have buyable zones. You don't buy fields as much as you buy big plot of land. A big plot of land could have fields, could have forested areas, could have meadows, could have blank spaces for a farm, could have a pre-developed farm on it. but you buy a defined area. So, you know, on this map, the sheep farm and probably fields 5, 25, 26, and maybe even 24 could be a defined area. The main farm here with maybe fields 6, 8, 14, and 17 could be a combined area. And then there could be a few more combined areas, you know, scattered around that you purchase. Wouldn't have free access to the that forestry zone over on the other side of the map, on the other side of the island. Just you would have to buy whatever land zone that forested area fell into, and if that included fields, well, then you bought those. You had access to those also. So that opens up a whole different different style of play, which really intrigues me. I mean that, as I've said before, you could watch a half dozen YouTube folks all play the same map and all play it completely differently, with a starting point, and their farm could be in completely different locations. Their farm layout will most definitely be different because they're going to be able to construct it themselves out of their own buildings, you know, out of the stock buildings that come in the game. And as the game further develops and is released longer, out of mods that are offered. I think the idea of placeable buildings will become even more popular. They're not really popular now. You know, it's kind of depressing. You look at the number of ratings. You don't really see downloads in the mod hub, but you look at the ratings on placeable structures in the mod hub, and you look at the prefab structures in the mod hub, and you look at those ratings, and you'll see that they have a very low number of ratings compared to, you know, like an implement or a map in general. So, you know, I think it's going to popularize the placeables and popularize building mods, shed mods, and just general deco mods that you would put, you know, in and around an area to make it feel like a farmyard. Because now we have the capability of building our own farm. We didn't have that. Well, we kind of did. I mean, you could take a map that had a placeable area, and you could plop down some buildings and sheds and say, well, that's my farm. But you know, 19 is going to take that to a whole new level with its difficulty styles, the ability to have the exact wording on how the difficulties are, I guess, are still a little subject to translation. But I was watching a video the other day where they were talking about the presentations at FarmCon and the difficulty levels, and it was basically saying that there was going to be an easy difficulty level, or basically normal gameplay, where you would start with you would start by owning. It would translate most to Farm Sim 17, in that you would start by owning a zone of land that would include a farm and some fields, maybe a small forest, give you a sampling of everything. The farm would be already developed, so it would already be built out. Starter farm. It would start with your starter vehicles, and you would have a small amount of money. You may or may not have crops in a silo. So that sounds exactly like how you start any map on 17 for the most part. Then there's another difficulty level where you start with probably less stuff and some money, and then there's kind of the homesteading version. I'll call it the homesteading difficulty, where you start with a bank account with some determined amount of cash. You know, how difficult a cash level is I guess somewhat unknown. I don't think anybody knows how much starting cash people are expecting you to have or anticipating to have. Let's say you start with $500,000, okay, and you got to buy a zone. You start by owning nothing on the map other than having $500,000. You may or may not even have a pickup truck, okay? So you show up on the map with nothing other than your bank account, and you have to figure out, where do I want to put down roots on the map? The map might have, let's say, 4 to 6 zones defined that you can buy, and it could have more than 6. I'm just making up 4 to 6 as an argument or a discussion point. So let's say there's 4 to 6 areas that are buyable on the map, and they're probably priced differently. So there's some that have big land and some that have little land, and you would buy into one of those areas with your money, and that would give you some access to some fields. It might give you access to some grass areas or some gravel areas for farm development. And then you would need to build out your own farm, put down a farmhouse, which apparently is what's going to be used to govern your career start point. You jump into a save game where you're going to start. Not going to be a defined start point for everybody. You're going to basically set your own start point as to where you want to start the map. It's pretty interesting. And then, you know, you're going to have to build out your sheds. Possibly lay down roads with some type of maybe like the roller, where you can paint different ground textures down, put gravel down, put concrete down, roll on grass or other things, but possibly paint areas around your developing farm to to make it really your own. And then you'll need to buy your equipment that you want to start with, and then you're off farming. That's the difficulty level that most intrigues, I think, lots of people, and lots of folks, I think, want to see, how does that work? How does that play out? Do they give you? Are you going to be starting with such a small amount of money that it's a really hard go? You're going to have to make really hard decisions on the size of equipment and the amount of equipment that you have early on. Or is it going to be more of a novelty concept where, well, the amount of money they give you is so generous that it's not very difficult at all to buy up a plot, throw down a bunch of buildings, buy a bunch of equipment, and get going. It might be the equivalent of, let's say, starting with $500,000 and having to invest 200 of that into land, and that leaves you just $300,000 for equipment in buildings. Or it might be where you have $1 million, and again you have $200,000 to put down on a plot of land, but then you have $800,000 for equipment and buildings. Be a pretty major difference between the two. So kind of some interesting ideas. Just kind of waiting for first official gameplay footage show up. Like to see some official information, maybe details around how does the starting work on the difficulty levels. Seems like to me on a mod map, the mod author would need to basically design a map where you would have multiple zones. So they'd have to define those zones out. At the same time, they would probably have to design out and build a farm on at least one, if not more, of those zones, for the potential of the player starting with the easier difficulty level, where you get on and you already have a piece of land already bought, so you would probably need at least one developed farm on the map. In the harder difficulty levels, will you be able to buy that developed farm, or will you truly not have everything? So it's going to be interesting to see how does 19 change the way maps are made, maps are set up. Are those fundamental gameplay differences going to have an adverse effect on map makers' ability to bring maps forward from 17 to 19? Think about that. Up until this point, I think it's been, not that it's been easy, but it's been somewhat straightforward in what it would take to convert a 15 map to 17. The triggers are different. You'd obviously need to redo the triggers. I don't know if the map boundaries are different. The field boundaries are different. Clearly the textures are different and everything, but how will this different gameplay style really go into effect with respect to map making and map conversions? We've already kind of seen this style of map making make its way into some maps. Clover Creek, which was a map that we dearly wanted to play in multiplayer, but the map just didn't work out well. Already had this concept where Clover Creek had probably 7 to 10 fully developed, fully built farms. Each farm had probably 3 to 6 fields associated with it. And when you started the map, you started with like $5 million, and you had to buy your farm. And I think the cheapest farm on the map may have been like $4.5 million or something. So you really started. It looked like you started with a lot of money, but before you could do anything, you had to buy your farm. So by the time you bought that farm, you didn't have much cash at all to deal with. So that's an interesting concept. Autumn Oaks is by the same mod author as Clover Creek, and they had the same concept there, where you have to buy a zone of fields, a collection of fields associated with a specific farm. at the outset. So the concept is not completely foreign to 17, but the execution is going to be completely different. Because in 17, bought an area, but your start point, unless you went into the editor, was always the same. It was always wherever the map author wanted you to start. I mean, like the West Coast, start point's up on a hill in the middle of a grass meadow. So as soon as you start the map, you pretty much have to tab into something in order to get somewhere where you can actually do something. Got that no tabbing option turned on. Well, every time you start the map, you're going to basically have to like run down the hill to the I think it was the cow farm that was close by in order to get to something that you could get into. Or you would need to, before you were done gameplay, get in something and drive it up to that hill so that when you started the map up the next time, you would have it, you know, up there where you could drive. There's been a mod, and this map uses it. This map has it embedded in it. There's a mod where you can basically it saves the point at which you stopped gameplay. So when you come back in the next time, you are basically at that same spot. So that's pretty interesting. So that's, I guess, the some of the principles behind the you know, start where you have your farmhouse, and your farmhouse is going to be different depending on where you have placed it on the map. But then, you know, we talked about the build your own farm. Basically means build your own animal areas, design your own animal areas, place your own animal areas, conceivably move them around. You'll probably have to sell your animals and buy them back. But they've also talked about sizing of animal area. Buy a small animal area, theoretically for a smaller amount of money. Buy a larger animal area for a larger amount of money. And you could possibly buy multiple animal areas of the same type. That limitation's not really been, I guess, established at this point. If there is a limit to the number of animal areas that a farmer can have, but they have talked about each animal area having its own number of animals that are permitted, a maximum supported capacity, if you will. So gone is what we're doing on this map, with 875 sheep in that little sheep area. That wouldn't happen. We would be limited to some number of theoretically realistic sheep in that zone. So we might be limited to 50 to 75 sheep. I don't know if that's unrealistic, but we might be limited to 50 sheep on the map, and that's the most we could have. Might be limited on this map to 20 cows because of the small cow area that we have. But we would also have the ability to put our own down, so we might decide, well, you know what, I want field 14 to be my cow area, or I want 21, or I want 19 and 20 to be my sheep area. And you, in theory, would be able to do that with 19, which I think is a pretty cool thing. As you can see, this is going to take a fair bit into the afternoon to finish out. We are slowly making our field pink with compaction. Now, I plowed all of these fields, so I'm not really sure why field 8 is coming up need plowing, but at any rate, seen that before. See our, look, let's zoom out here. Zoomed out a little bit. So you can see we've got our stripes on fields 4, 25. 25 is what we still have to harvest. We've now got our official pink stripes on fields 10, 9, and 4. We've gone ahead and put fertilizer down on those fields, and they should be good to go till the crops come up. We might hit them with another coat. I think field 9 and 10 need another layer of fertilizing. I think 4 is good to go with 3 stages at this point. Because put a coat down, put fertilizer down after harvest. On field 4, we had chopped straw down, so when we cultivated field 4, we got a fertilized level out of that. Then after we cultivated, we came through with another layer of fertilizer, which is why we have our pink stripes here. I think field 4 and 4 we're done. 5 we still need to get over there and spray. Didn't have a chance to get that done, or before we had to do our harvest here. There's field 9. We already got our canola up here. It's already come up through the ground. So go over there and just check, see what the fertilized level is on this field. Thirds fertilized, 17% growth, 5% ground moisture. So we can put another fertilizer down on this. Look at the winter forecast so far. Looks like we might be able to get that done here in the winter. Early parts of winter, it looks like we'll probably be able to fertilize our fields. Got 2 more days of autumn. Both are calling for rain. Need to try to prioritize getting these fields harvested. Again, we have the rest of this field, and we have field 25 left to bring in. And then at that point, just kind of work the fields when it's dry enough. Get in here and not make a big old mess. Continue to work these fields into winter until we get frozen out of field work. And once we get frozen out of field work, then it's just going to be tending to our greenhouses, tending to our animals, carting a whole bunch of milk across the way. And when we can fit it in, maybe doing a little forestry work over there. We're not hurting for cash. You can see we're at over 2 million now at this point. So I think we're going to roll out of here once we are all said and done. Next spring, we're going to roll out here with a fair bit of money in our pockets. I think we've definitely made our money back upon our investment in those 600 sheep and in all of our equipment. So guys, we are just past our 30-minute mark. I'm going to go ahead and say thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please click the like button. If you are not a subscriber, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button too while we're at it. You know, we do Let's Play content Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We're about to wrap up Rathlin, and in fact, I'm expecting there's going to be some Monday, Wednesday, Friday gaps as we close out the series, simply because there's going to be a fair bit of unrecorded work that I need to do in order to get through winter and get through basically get through winter and some part of spring. So I haven't planned out how many episodes are going to be left, but I would say that they're probably fairly low, the video counts at this point. So we may miss a couple days here toward the end, but we're going to be moving Emerald Coast into the Monday, Wednesday, Friday time slot. We're going to try to play 10 years worth of gameplay on Emerald Coast using seasons, and just give it a really long playthrough and see how variable seasons is at that play distance and everything. And that'll probably take us into FS19's release. So, until next time, guys, happy farming.